Welcome back. So, like last time when I saw you, before I showed you my heart, or at the end, I said, we'll talk about nothing. And I was serious. Nothing, it turns out, is probably the most important subject you can ever ponder. Its intangibility makes it affect other things in ways you can't even believe. It's hard to wrap your mind around sometimes, but less is more. So, what do we mean by nothing? Is nothing like the zero that shows up in all the numbers that we use? You know, you put a one in front of a nothing, right? And you have a 10, 10, whatever. But that doesn't essentially change the value of nothing or even give meaning to the circle. The circle is a great symbol for the universe, for unification, for unity, for wholeness. And the one, of course, is a great symbol for the being, but it's also a great symbol for the circle, the self-enclosed unit, which is one thing. God is best realized as one thing. The perfect one thing that created all things before all things, which is undefined, which is in every respect like the zero, the circle, not the square, the circle. This, this self-contained, self-perfection, but really, ultimately, God isn't any of that to the symbol world. God made all those things. God is indefinable, invisible, not smellable, not tasteable, not touchable. Can't hear God, can't feel God, because the idea of God is this perfection which exists. And so then, therefore, you have something which essentially, by virtue of its perfection, is undefinable. So now nothing is this absence of substance. It's kind of like the life of Jesus, where he is best known for abstaining from things and letting go of things. Buddha is well known for that. Other high, perfect, or perfection seeking beings sought also to free themselves from being possessed. We call them possessions. Well, it's because they possess you. Why do they possess you? It's because they're important to your mind. Are they really important? Well, the only thing that's really important would be to keep your physical being alive, and that's fairly limited: sleep, food, which is debatable. Food may not even be important. Food may kill us slowly over time and shorten our age span, honestly. People who eat less generally do live longer on Earth. Um, so less is more. Less is better. Less is achievable, but when you're on Earth and you're living in the midst of the manifestations of the multitudes of pleasure and color and things that resemble mandalas, and there are perfumey scents and um, pleasures of the mind, it becomes very distracting. And so it's hard to escape that. I mean, the point of religion is to free you from eternal entrapment in the world of possessions. And the reason that it continues on is that we are reminded then that, yeah, a little moderation goes a long way, and perhaps my suffering is self-induced and not so much problematic of a foreign world which robs me of my peace of mind. Because that's the truth. It's me. I'm creating these issues. I make my life a miserable hell. Nobody does this but me. I wake up every day and start my day in a certain way. There are certain things that are in appearance uncontrollable to a normal human, but very little. Most of the things that I call problems would be of my own creation. So in pondering the universe, you realize that the idea of nothing is hard to come by. There's not a lot of space between you and me. In fact, if there were space between you and me, this pen could never touch you or the screen or anything, because objects do not travel through nothing. They don't. Zero means nothing. It means zilch. It means absent. And so, if this cannot be corrected, then you and I would not be able to communicate. I could not share my thoughts and feelings. And right now, I hope this works out, it turns out I'm recording upside down. So I'm going to have to check this, because if it does, it's not going to be as interesting to me or anyone else if it does. But you can always flip the screen, which is somewhat of a correction. So anyway, like I was saying, you're kind of caught in this scenario where, philosophically, if you look at it, the world is either mind, which equates to this great big circle, or it's matter, which turns out to be more like one, and it's physical. But how does a physical object retain spiritual essence? How does it carry a being? Where do the two things get to be together? Because ultimately, you cannot have two things in one place at one time. And I suspect everybody can perceive that concept, and not too many people have sat around wondering about it or deciding whether it's important or whether it's enjoyable, but you can't have two things in one place at one time. Now, the word universe means everything, but it also means one thing spinning. So if it's one thing, you can't have, and it means everything, you can't have two things. There's no space. There's no room. So when you look up and see outer space, or you look out and see a tree, or you look down and see the ground, ultimately there's no space between you and it. Things don't travel through nothing. My point of calling it nothing or enforcing that is that for it to be something, then it would be connecting you. To be different than you, it would have to have nothing. You would have to have a complete separation of your being from this existence to be different from anything that is a part of it. And to accomplish this, you would probably require the return of nothing surrounding you. You have a night. It doesn't matter how thick nothing is. It could be 1 zillionth of a micron, or it could be infinity, because nothing is infinity. If there was nothing between you and me, I could never see you. I could never hear you. I could never know you, because nothing, even though it may be paper thin, it's infinity. And it's not here. It's not around us. It's nowhere to be seen. Or, if you'd like, it's everything. And God, being invisible and perfect and indivisible and omnipresent, resembles, in our investigative mind, nothing. Because we can't put a finger on at all. There's no way to trap God. So it's a good description of God, because not only does it not exist in our realm, but it is the ultimate definition of what we can't understand. And so I'll leave you with that for the moment, and then we'll pick up with God itself and the truth.